Friday, everybody. What a night and a day yesterday. The bowl games were literally fantastic. The NFL, not so much. Seattle beat Chicago 6-3. It was not a baseball game, although Seattle beat the White Sox 6-3 during the summer. No scoring in the second half. Oh, my gosh, scoring. Plenty of that in the Grizzlies game. 155 points, a franchise record. But, Toronto scored 2. There was no defense in this game. They had 126 points, a total of 281 points. For the Grizz, 8 guys in double figures, 2 double-doubles. That was Triple J and Zach Edey. Almost 4 double-doubles because Ja had 9 assists, Kennard had 8, and they both had double figures. And the numbers are in for the sports on Christmas Day. So you remember LeBron in his post-game remarks saying, I love the NFL, but Christmas is the NBA.
That's right.
I don't think people buy that. Here's the numbers that are pretty outrageous. Remember they had $64 million for the fight and all those technical problems?
That's right.
This time, at least watching 1 minute of these NFL games were 65 million people. It's the most streamed sporting event in the history of streaming. 65 million watched at least 1 minute. Baltimore, Houston, the average of watching the game was 24.3 million. Kansas City and Pittsburgh, 24.1 million. That's because of the time slot. Just a difference of basically 200,000. So in the low 24 millions. That's what they got. The NFL had their best numbers on Christmas Day in 5 years. Have you seen these numbers, Brian Tekes?
I've not.
Okay. So the NBA on Christmas Day, that belongs to, according to LeBron, the league,
right.
the NBA. It's 24, we'll say average 24.2 because it was 24.3 and 24.1. The best numbers in 5 years. What were the numbers for the NBA?
I have no clue. I can't even guess.
5.25 for the both games, for all 5.
Interesting.
5.25. So literally about 20% of the audience that watches the NFL. The NFL can do what they want to.
They can do whatever they want to.
And that would have been better.
Oh, yeah.
A lot better had it not been on streaming. Mm-hmm. Now, here's the thing I wonder. Do you know how much money, incidentally, Netflix paid for 2 football games?
Oh, I saw this figure, and now I can't remember it. But it was a good amount of money. I saw it cost them more for these 2 games than to do like a season of like Game of Thrones or something like that.
The number they paid for 2 football games was $150 million.
Holy cow.
But you got to wonder to yourself, how many subscriptions will Netflix get?
Oh, yeah.
Because they're going to start doing more sports. I was shocked. Now, of course, they got to try to make their money back, so they had advertising in here. If you watch a series or a movie on Netflix, you never see advertising, which is one of the reasons why I really like it a lot. But they had to offset $150 million. But I would have thought that Netflix would have had more promos of their own programming to get people more enticed, because there were a lot of people that went to other people's houses or went to bars to watch these games because that's what they do. And they have no idea what's on Netflix. This would have really gone, ooh, wow, I'd like to see that. So I think they could have gotten more if they had more. They had a couple promos, but not as many as I would have thought. But that is just an example. We don't have Joe Dank on for almost a month because of the holidays. But that's just an example of the stronghold the NFL has. A streaming entity performs 5 times the NBA on actually ESPN and ABC. Pretty doggone impressive for sure. Oh, man, the Bear game yesterday. I don't understand how a football team could – 2 football teams. One's trying to make the playoffs. Mm-hmm. There was zero scoring in the second half. Crazy. I'm not sure we have seen that in a game where the conditions weren't awful. Wow, just absolutely crazy what happened in that. The bowl games, though. Listen, we know, and I think a lot of it, and I've said this over and over, I don't mean to be a broken record, but I honestly believe if we want true playoff competition, we can't have home fields. You got to be on neutrals. I think the bowl games are a perfect example of that. Those first-round playoff games, look, even the 8-9, that was a big blowout. The fact that they are on home fields makes a difference. There was not one good playoff game. Every bowl game seems to have been terrific.
Oh, those bowl games yesterday. Holy cow.
So yesterday you had a 6 overtime game with Pittsburgh and Toledo. And Toledo, the group of 5, upsets the Power 4. I love it when that happens.
After celebrating, that was the final time was the third time they celebrated on the field by winning because we had a hold, a defensive hold, so we had to run it again.
Right.
And then there was one play that had to be reviewed for like 10 minutes on if he scored or not. So they got to celebrate 3 separate times on their win.
Kansas State was a winner by a field goal, 44-41. They were down 10 at the half, I believe. I was surprised at that. And then Arkansas State in a good game with Bowling Green, high-scoring 38-31. And the Red Wolves were winners. Good.
And they were like
it's a good stretch for the Red Wolves. Beat the Tigers in basketball.
Yeah. Well, and they were like a 10-point underdog in that game last night. So that's a huge win for them.
Hey, Butch Jones going to keep
How
his
about
job.
that? I guess so.
I think so. He made a bowl. He won the bowl. I don't know. What was their final record? Do you have any idea?
I do not know off the top of my head, but it was, I think maybe with that win, it might have been 7-6. I think it was kind of right there around 6-6.
So that was just yesterday. You realize I watched a lot of this game. It was the Hawaii Bowl. USF beat Ken Niumatalolo's team, and I was kind of pulling for USF. I don't like their coach. The stuff he pulled with the quarterback against Memphis was Bush League. And I don't think
8-5 for Arkansas State.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, good season.
I don't think Alex, it's Golish. Alex Golish. I don't think he's liked by other coaches either.
That wouldn't surprise me.
So I'm not a big fan of his, but I had a pull for the league, which, by the way, we're going to get to this in the roundtable. We'll be joined by Corey Glore, by Bruce Howard when we do our AAC roundtable final segment of the week. The AAC is 3-1 in bowls. You know, it makes me wonder, and I'm going to ask this question. You take a look, North Texas, look at Tulane. There is a commitment in football. Is there that same commitment in basketball? Is Memphis the only committed team? Because I would say this. Memphis tries in both sports. They got the best or one of the top 3 NILs. USF and Tulane are the other in football. So we see that commitment there. I don't see that commitment from Tulane in basketball. They play, and I wonder what Corey's going to say because he's a pretty honest guy. Now, remember, he's got to sort of defend his school too. But you take a look at Avron Fogelman Arena, and you scratch your head. And there are no plans that I know of. They've updated it a little bit, but, you know, if you got a thimble, you can't make it, you know, the Taj Mahal. It is what it is. You can spruce it up a little bit, but you can't make it anything more, really, than what it is. You have to start from scratch and build a new arena. They're not committed to that. And they don't want to really play their games where the Pelicans play. They played a couple of big games. I don't think they've done that in a couple of years. I think Ron Hunter really has, you know, one hand tied behind his back because those facilities are just god-awful. And I believe that's tough for him. I don't think they're committed. I wonder if the league is as committed because I think it's not a great football league either, but it's certainly a better football league than it is a basketball league. And we'll get into that a little bit. But so far, 3-1 in the bowl games. But besides the USF 5 overtime win over Niumatalolo's San Jose State team, you had NIU, the conquerors of Notre Dame, the only Notre Dame loss this year, and they beat Fresno State in double overtime. So we've had a bunch of overtime games. The Tigers game with West Virginia was exciting. That ended up being a 5-point game. You look at most of these bowl games, they have all been really intriguing, exciting, competitive, all on neutrals. You look at the playoff games, all on homes, not one great game. Now, this week, they are on neutrals. And as always, we will make our picks. We pick 6 every week. So far on the year, Bryant has rallied. He's now 500.
How about that?
21-21. Unfortunately for you, my friend, I am 27-15. I am 12 games over 500.
Dang it.
You may not catch me. But you have all basketball season to try to do it. And my numbers were even better than that before we started our competition.
That's right.
I've just given up on that.
Yeah. That's what we said as we restarted.
We started
yeah,
it.
That's
yes.
right.
So there
that didn't work in my favor, I guess.
Well, it should have, but you just did not pick well. That's your problem. The AutoZone Liberty Bowl tonight. Texas Tech -1.5 against Arkansas. I must confess, I have gone back and forth on this game. Arkansas is getting 1.5 points. They're missing so many people from the portal. Texas Tech, but they have their quarterback. Texas Tech, they don't have their quarterback. I'm going to go leaning a little bit to the tougher league. I don't like doing that in bowl games. I do think Sam Pittman's team wants to play. The gala last night was nice. Was fun. Felix Cavallero was he's written so many hits, and you'll remember them all. He's 82 years old now. If I'm going to be totally honest, there's a little slippage of quality in the voice. Not terrible. He can still put on a good show, and people loved it. You know, the only two guys, just thinking about this, one guy that I thought of, and I'll give Greg Aston a lot of credit because he came up with the other. There's only and I was thinking about this, and the one guy I thought of was Tony Bennett.
Okay, yeah.
Who sang beautifully into his 90s.
Yeah, that's a good one.
He's incredible. He never lost quality of voice. The other guy is James Taylor that Greg Gaston came up with. I don't see any slippage in quality of voice from James Taylor. Most other human beings, their voices are not as good when they get into their 80s as they were in their prime. That's just fact. And that is sort of the case. But he was entertaining, for sure. I think people had a lot of fun. I commend the AutoZone Liberty Bowl because they go out of their way every year to still have so many of these events. Not all of them are still around. A lot of this has been de-emphasized, and I think some of that emphasis is on coaches who just don't want to take the time.
Right.
I'm almost certain that the annual luncheon, you remember you used to get the glass, and there were a lot of speeches. I mean, it was 2 hours of speeches. But it's gone away, and I think it's gone away because coaches were practicing. They didn't want to give up that time, and they don't come as long as they used to anymore because kids want to go away for their breaks or whatever it may be. So not quite the same, but the AutoZone Liberty Bowl tries to keep up many of the traditions. Texas Tech, a 1.5-point favorite. I am really torn here. I'm going to go Arkansas. I'm not a firm believer in it, but I'm going to go Hogs.
Okay. I'm going to go the other side. I'm going to go with Texas Tech. I'll be honest, I think just the sheer amount of guys in the transfer portal that won't be playing for Arkansas tonight scares me too much to where I will go with a quarterback that I don't even know who's starting for Texas Tech. I will go with Texas Tech just because of how many, losing starting offensive linemen, losing starting wide receivers, starting tight end. So it just feels like a lot for Arkansas. I think it's going to be a good game. I think this line reflects that it's going to be a really win. And it feels like, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, the past handful of Liberty Bowls have been really good in competitive games.
Yeah.
I know last year Tigers kind of ran away, which was fun for us watching
the last
that.
time Arkansas played was 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Triple overtime.
That's what I remember. Yes, that was a great game. So I'm hoping this is a really good one. I think it will be, but I'll lean Texas Tech here.
All right. Here's the question for you that I have.
Okay.
What's the most important position in the game of football?
Quarterback, and they've got theirs back. Taylor Green. What a guy.
Arkansas's got their quarterback.
Right. Yeah.
Texas
Texas
Tech
Tech
does
doesn't.
not.
Yeah,
Anyway.
it's a scary one. It's one of those where
It's tough.
you close your eyes and you click it and then you move on.
The next one is not so tough. It's the Fiesta Bowl. And, of course, this won't be decided till midweek next week. But Penn State is an 11-point favorite over Boise. Boise, that went to Oregon, the number one seed in these playoffs, the number one team in the country, undefeated, and they took them to the final possession. Lost a close game. Why do people think that Penn State is going to run over? I wouldn't be shocked if Boise won the game. I can't wait to see what Genty will do against the Nittany Lion defense. I don't know if Penn State will lose the game, but they ain't winning it by 11. I am all over Genty and Boise State.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point earlier when you were talking about the games that were home field games last week and now moving to the neutral site bowl locations, because I think looking especially at these first two games that we're going to pick for the playoffs, the Boise State Penn State game, and then the next one we'll pick Texas and Arizona State. These big numbers terrify me, Dave. I liked a lot of the underdogs last week, and that did not work out for me. But I'm right there with you. I think Boise State's a good team. I think Ashton Genty, I think the whole talk that I've heard a lot of people say of, well, he's just running against a group of 5 defenses, I think that's crazy talk. We already saw what he did against Oregon earlier this season. I think he'll be able to run. I know this is a good Penn State run defense, but I think it's going to be a really good game, and I think it's going to be a close game. I think both teams are going to struggle at times. I think both teams are going to find success at times, so I will take Boise State plus that 11.
We are in agreement there. Texas, this is the biggest line of all. 13.5-point favorite over Kenny Dillingham and my second favorite running back this year, Scatterbo.
Oh, he's awesome.
I love that guy. You cannot tackle that guy with one guy. You got to have 2. He's like a fire hydrant. Both of his legs are fire hydrants.
2 fire hydrants.
I love the dude. And again, tell me, who has Texas beaten? Not one top 25 team. Not one. 13.5. That is way too much. I don't know if Arizona State will win the game, but I don't think they're going to lose by 2 touchdowns. That's basically what this is. I'm taking Arizona State.
Dave, I hate this pick. I hate that I'm doing it, but another one.
I think I'm loving it.
I think you're going to love it. I think the lights might be a little too bright for Arizona State. I said this in their conference championship game, and it didn't work out for me.
No.
We're going to say it again. We're going to try it again. Go back to that well.
Over Iowa State.
Yes.
Ran over
I love
him.
Scatterbo. I love Scatterbo. He's a great player. He's one of my favorite players to watch this year. But I think Texas is going to be too much to handle. Give me by the 2 touchdowns.
Okay. I love it.
I don't love it.
We have 2 differences in 3 games. Ohio State, minus 2.5 against Oregon. This game is in California, the Rose Bowl. So they got to move 3 time zones, right? Oregon's not moving any time zones. Oregon already beat them this year. How is Ohio State the favorite in this game? I'm really not sure. I think it's going to be a close game, and I think this is the hardest one, honestly, to pick. But I am going to go with Oregon.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Ducks as well, Dave. I think, not a super quick turnaround for Ohio State, but they had to prepare for a good Tennessee team. Now they were able to ace that perfectly, but now they got to get ready for Oregon. When Dan Lanning, and we know how he's able to get his team going, he gets his team fired up. He's just been sitting there salivating for a couple of weeks of either team, Tennessee or Ohio State, and now he gets Ohio State, a team he's already beaten this year. Now it was at home, but I'll take the Ducks to cover this point spread and probably win this game.
So we agree with this. It's interesting to me. I heard somebody who was going with Ohio State was basically saying, for some of those teams, the higher seeded teams that haven't played yet, they're nervous because it's their first game. It's not Oregon's already played Ohio State.
Yeah.
They did beat them. I know there was a little mismanagement of time.
Sure, yeah. That was a great game earlier this season.
Yeah. All right, Notre Dame taking on Georgia. That is in New Orleans at the Sugar Bowl. It is Georgia favored by 2 in the game. I just heard Brandon Lang, who I love, go all out for Notre Dame. I still say, who has Notre Dame played? They lost to Northern Illinois. He goes, since that loss, look what they've done. Look what they've done that against. There's not a proven commodity that they absolutely wiped out. Nobody. Georgia, 2 points, a field goal game. It's the winner. Winner is the team. Georgia seems to play big in these big games. I got to go with the Bulldogs.
I'm going to go to the other side, Dave. I'm going to take Notre Dame.
Okay.
We'll see what the young quarterback Gunnar Stockton can do for Georgia. I think Notre Dame's going to try to force him to go out and win it for Georgia. It's going to be a lot of running the ball for the Dogs. I think Notre Dame's going to try to stop that early and try to force Stockton to make plays with his arm. We'll see if he can do that, but I'll take Notre Dame in this one.
Okay, so we differ on 3 of the 5. Here comes our final NFL game, and we got to make a change here because I just noticed the line has changed. When I sent you these picks early this morning, Minnesota was the 1-point favorite. The public or the bettors of Vegas, the pros, they have changed this line. It's Green Bay now, -1.5, okay? So that's what we're going to go with. We've caught it in time. The Packers are favored on the road at Minnesota. I think Minnesota's going to win this game. I truly believe that. I maybe some of it is because I just can't stand Green Bay and I want to pick them, but I'm going Vikings.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Green Bay in this one.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a really good game. This is a Green Bay team that you look at their losses, 4 losses this season. 3 of them have been divisional losses, 2 against Detroit and 1 to Minnesota. I think they'll try to do anything and everything to avoid losing twice to both Detroit and Minnesota. So I think they get the win. They're also playing really good football right now. So I'll take Green Bay to beat this really good Minnesota team.
We differ on 4 of the 6. There could be some real movement in all of this one way or the other. Final story. I'm really looking for I really am so happy for Seth Hennigan, who was named the Commercial Appeal Sports Person of the Year. And I think there's a lot of reasons why you did that. First of all, your team here is 11-2. Could have gone to a Grizz, I suspect, but the Grizz injuries, and there hasn't been anybody that at this point, you can always go John Morant. Triple J's become, a very consistent player. He's started to live up to what we all thought he would be. But Seth Hennigan stayed 4 years. That played into the role of this decision by the Commercial Appeal Athletic Department. Not only that, he's the school and the conference's #1 quarterback of all time. This was a kid that did not have very many offers coming out of high school. Ryan Silverfield saw something. He didn't think he'd become the greatest quarterback in the history of the school, statistically, but he did think there was something there. He gave him a chance. The kid beat out other people from the very beginning, stayed all 4 years, and he had SEC offers. He had big-time offers for a lot more money. I'm sure the Tigers paid him pretty well, but he stayed. He was a great citizen. He's been a great ambassador. He's got a girlfriend that I think is from Memphis, so he's going to spend time here. I don't think he's moving away.
Dave, fiance.
Right. Oh, my goodness.
Yes.
Well, he left right in the middle. This is the truth. Right in the middle of our radio post-interview, which I hadn't arranged through the SIDs. We just went on the field and we're trying to grab everybody we could. And he goes, wait a minute. His fiance wanted to take a picture, and he left us for that and then came back.
Wow. Priorities.
But I am really happy for him.
That's awesome.
He is the Commercial Appeal Sports Person of the Year. I couldn't think of a better person to pick for 2024. I'm sitting in the Family Leisure Studios. We do have a floor model sale. It's here. All the 2024 inventory. It's got to go. They got to have room because the 2025s are coming in. All floor models up to 50% off. I'm talking big savings, and you should see how pretty the place looks. And they're building a whole new section. You'll love everything about family leisure at I-40 and Wooden Road. And this portion of the show is brought to you by Southern Security. 6 years in a row, they have been the credit union of the year. At Southern Security, if you're talking about the lowest possible rate on your mortgage, this is where you go. They offer low rates, flexible terms, no PMI, and, of course, unbeatable service, always the latest in technology. You can refinance your current mortgage with the Mid-South's best mortgage leader. You can join the family two different ways, at southernsecurity.org online, or you can talk to a human being at the office at 901-452-7900. Southern Security is an equal housing lender. Southern Security is a proud supporter of the U of M athletics. Southern Security is your home team credit union, federally insured by NCUA. We head to Chicago. Our agent from Priority Sports, Andy Schiffman, on the NBA. He comes your way in just a minute.
Be sure to follow us at Sports 56 WHBQ on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube to watch live video of our shows. Stay up to date with station events and have chances to win prizes. Don't miss out on anything that's going on. Follow us at Sports 56 WHBQ.
If you need glass replaced, there's only one name you need to know. Benswinger Glass, the largest full-service glass company in the U.S. They've been an industry leader for over 145 years. For all your residential, commercial, or auto glass needs, Benswinger Glass is the name you need to know. 24-hour emergency service for all commercial customers, plus a nationwide warranty on all professionally installed glass. Visit Benswinger Glass in Midtown at 340 South Hollywood, across from the Liberty Bowl. Visit BenswingerGlass.com. Benswinger Glass.
Jason the Main Man Marshall, it's the Slide Big Drive sales event over there at Gossip Volkswagen on the Pike.
That's right, Randy. Zero down payment, zero security deposit, zero first month lease payment, and zero due at signing. Or get 0% for 60 months.
Well, Jason, you can't find better than that. What else you got?
All peak condition analysis now $5,000 off MSRP. And get this, new 2023 Volkswagen Town testing, only $299 a month. Or buy for $26,925.
Brand new Tahoes, $299 a month, or buy it for $26,925. Hey, what about Tiguan?
2024 Tiguan S, now zero down for $375 a month. And remember, at Gossip Volkswagen on the Pike, no reasonable offer will be refused.
So get online, GossipVWMemphis.com, or go see the Main Man Marshall. Gossip Volkswagen, 1875 Clemington Park.
Where we're charging forward and charging less every day.
Getting quality employees to fill positions in your company is essential, but finding those people can be a major hassle, unless you use ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter makes finding quality people a breeze. ZipRecruiter's advanced technology identifies candidates with the right skills, sends you great matches, then you can easily invite them to apply. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. See for yourself. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/free to try ZipRecruiter for free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
It's a holiday experience like no other. The Light Garden at Olive Branch City Park. It's a walk-through entertainment extravaganza with hundreds of giant 3D Christmas-like displays, photos with Santa, food and drinks, and special events including fireworks on New Year's Eve. New this year is a winter-inspired 18-hole miniature golf course. Bring the family out nightly through January 1st. Go to lightgarden.online for details and to buy tickets. Now stay tuned to Sports 56 and 98.5 FM for chances to win tickets and go through the Light Garden.
It won't be long. We'll be dancing the night away on New Year's Eve. Are you stocked up? Are you ready? Go see Eddie Connor at the Spirit Shop. Always fun to go see Eddie because I'm going to get an education. I'm going to find out what the newest, greatest, best deal is around. I get an education. I'm going to see rare bourbons. I'm going to see middle of the road but brand new tequilas. I'm going to see the bargains. Maybe there's a wine coming up that is going to be sensational in a few years, but is really inexpensive right now because it's the latest and greatest. Go check it out. It's so convenient in the heart of East Memphis since '69. That little log cabin's been there right down from Clark Tower. Poplar and St. Nick, 4848 Poplar. Go stock up with Eddie at the Spirit Shop. We go to Chicago, and our agent from Priority Sports, that's Andy Schiffman, who joins us now. Holy cow, last night. 155 to 126. Yep. Was that just great offense, or was that nobody playing defense, Andy?
Look, Dave, I think it's mostly great offense. The Raptors are a team that are built to lose. They are not trying to win games. They're not playing any veterans they have. They've had some injuries. So they're not strategizing going down to play the Grizzlies, thinking, okay, let's compete and try and win. Obviously, if that happens, great. It's more about the emphasis there is on developing their young players. And the Grizzlies have just been obliterating people. Obviously, with the Clippers' loss at home, take that one out of the equation. They have just been scoring every which way. They lead the league in points per game at over 123. They're top 2 or 3 in so many other offensive categories. So right now, the Grizzlies are clicking on all cylinders.
It's hard for me to take out that Clippers equation, though, and I'll tell you why. Several times during the broadcast of that game, I heard Pete Pranica and Brevin Knight basically say, this is like a playoff game. We've got the physicality of a playoff game, the atmosphere of a playoff game, the closeness of a playoff game, and so you that's where defense comes in. And I'm not saying it's totally like football where defense wins championships, but it's usually a big factor in all of that. And, I think the Grizz can play defense. I think they can beat the teams, but when they played one that really notched that level up a little bit, they struggled.
Yeah, absolutely. You'll see that again here and there the rest of the season, but I think if you just the law of averages, right, and extrapolate out the rest of their schedule, more often than not, they're going to be in these lopsided victories against these sub-500 teams, just the way the NBA goes. And so when they do face a team like the Clippers or moving forward, when you're up against an OKC or Denver or Boston or Cleveland, you really have to ramp it up defensively because you know the opponent's going to be unlike some of these other teams that you're playing night to night. And so you just can't get too complacent. You can't start coasting when you do play a Raptors team at home. I know they're in New Orleans tonight. That should be a bit of a bloodbath as well. Obviously, New Orleans isn't fully healthy, and they're one of the bottom feeder teams in the league right now. But then, again, just like I talked about, you need to take care of business tonight on the road because then you got 2 really tough road games after that to finish out the year against the Thunder, against Phoenix. And then you go to Sacramento, which that's always dangerous. They've really struggled, Sacramento, but any given night, they can win one at home.
No doubt. You are the agency for Zach Edey and your client who missed some games. Looked rusty when he first came back, double-double last night. He absolutely looked much more comfortable in recognizing what he's supposed to do with the offense the Grizzlies have. Give me your thoughts on your prize package.
Yeah, look, I think it was a great opportunity for Zach last night against one of the worst teams in the league, his hometown team, actually, in Toronto. And I'm glad that Taylor left him in as much as he did, even though it was such a bit of a blowout win. They obviously started Zach, and they really gave him free rein. And I think now that he's fully healthy and past these ankle injuries, you can see what he can do when he really has a bit of a runway here. So, I think that hopefully this will continue. I think they need him now moving into this tough stretch. I'd like to see him continue to stay in the starting lineup. We'll see if that happens. But if I'm Taylor, I leave him in the starting lineup until he gives me a reason not to. And as you said, double-double last night, 9 offensive rebounds. No one else on the team can really do that. So hopefully this is the start of a nice little runway, a nice little trend here for Zach and the Grizzlies. So I'm excited. I think he's only going to keep getting better. Obviously, we've talked a lot about this rookie class. It's really not too deep, and you see a lot of these younger developmental players that are supposed to be potential stars in the future. Stephon Castle, Reed Shepard, Ron Holland. They've had moments here and there. Ron Holland's played really well. Ricochet with the Hawks. But again, there's a benefit to drafting a seasoned veteran, so to speak, like a Zach Edey, because he can do what he's doing. Step right into a starting lineup on a playoff-bound team that's competing for a Western Conference Finals berth, competing for a championship. So the more reps that Zach can get this time of year, the more it's going to pay off once we get to April and May.
Who would you, at this point, now we're a third of the way through the season, so there's a lot to be played, but who would be your rookie of the year? You mentioned Ricochet from Atlanta. Edey on his own team wouldn't be the rookie of the year. That would go to Wells.
Right.
Who do you think would be the guy at this point?
God, it's really a tough call just because you're looking around the lottery. I mean, none of these guys are really setting the league on fire. I think Dalton Connect's had a lot of good moments he made a lot of headway early on and playing really well with the Lakers when they kind of got off to that hot start. He's not going to get Rookie of the Year, but I really like with the Pelicans, the big center from Baylor, Yves Missy. Man, it's honestly really a tough call. I think, look, I will say this. I think if the Grizzlies continue to win and they continue to rely on Jalen Wells and Zach Edey, it very well could be Jalen Wells, which would be pretty unprecedented, being drafted 39th and getting Rookie of the Year. And I think that has more to do with the quality of this draft class as it does to Jalen Wells. But again, I don't want to take any credit away from Wells because he has played very, very well. That's a diamond in the rough find for Zach Kleiman and the Grizzlies organization. So I would say if it was today, I'd probably give it to Wells because he's played well and really helped a team thrive and succeed and turn into one of the NBA's hottest teams right now. I think there's going to be other players drafted much further ahead of Wells and even Zach for that matter that will probably end up in 3 or 4 years from now very well be high-level NBA rotational players. I'm not sure if any of these guys we're talking about are going to be NBA All-Stars. It's much too early to tell. But there are a lot of really good players with really, really high ceilings. But this is just the learning curve of being young and entering the NBA.
The post-game interview with LeBron James after a classic with Steph Curry and the Lakers beat the Warriors on Christmas Day was the statement that LeBron likes the NFL, but the NBA owns Christmas, something to that effect. That's not true. 65 million watched on Netflix. They averaged 24.2 for the 2 games, 24.2 million. That was their average. The NBA numbers were the best in 5 years on Christmas. They were 20% of the NFL's at 5.25 million. Wow. What does the NBA do about it? Because now they know the NFL's not going to give up Christmas. The NFL's here to stay.
Right. Really, I don't think there's anything you can do. I think you just got to be content. And I hate to say it. If you're out of silver, you got to be content. This is as good as it's going to get on Christmas Day. Unless the NFL just pulls game on Christmas Day, or they go out there and have just horrible teams competing against one another, and then you've got the likes of the Lakers or Warriors, or really like a Boston, Cleveland, or if you had a healthy Philadelphia team, even something like Boston, Philadelphia would have been such a huge draw. That Philadelphia game was a great game, by the way, as well. And I even stayed up for that late night Phoenix game. Phoenix-Denver was a great game too. But again, like no matter what, we've seen this time and time again, year in and year out. Like the NFL, they own professional sports viewership ratings, I believe, in the U.S. And obviously now with them playing multiple games over in London and Europe throughout the season, that's only going to continue to grow the international fan base for the NFL, just like the NBA has. This is what it is, and I wouldn't be too concerned about it. If I'm Adam Silver, I wouldn't really try and reinvent the wheel. I like the fact that they did add the cup games. I mean, the only thing you could possibly do, I just still don't think it would get you on even footing with the NFL on Christmas Day, is to make the Cup finals on Christmas Day. I think you have a level of excitement when you get to the Cup and you get to the finals that they had in Vegas just last week. But now if you put that on Christmas Day, it's a bigger draw. I think, would that boost ratings for the NBA? Sure. Would it trump the NFL? No chance.
I think that's an interesting proposition. So that means you would go down to 1 game? Because that's what you're talking about. Or would you sandwich that around 2 or 3 other great games? Is that 5 this time?
I think you have to have multiple games, but you could almost do it where you just lead up to that final game being the last game or prime time, let's say. I don't think it makes sense to put that one at 9:30 Central Time like that Nuggets Suns game was. But I like the idea of potentially having other games around it, with that game being prime time and then maybe a late night West Coast game, or just however you need to adjust the schedule and make that happen, you could do that.
All right. Happy New Year, my friend. We always appreciate you being on. Next time we talk to you, it'll be 2025.
Sounds good. Well, I'll talk to you next year. Happy New Year, Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, Merry everything, right?
You got it. Same to you. Right back at you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. That's our agent in Chicago. That is Andy Schiffman. We got to take a break. When we come back, it's time for the roundtable right here on Wolo and Friends.
Start your day with Sports 56 Mornings with Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy.
Weekday mornings from 7 to 10, right here on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. Country music singer-songwriter Kylie Morgan absolutely loves her Genesis Diamond ring.
I got so many compliments as soon as I got the ring. Continue to get compliments on it. He's legitimately putting in my finger.
Kylie's husband Jay and folks in the music industry ring about Genesis, but he also did a lot of her work on his own.
I came to find the ring. He took it very seriously. We did all the research. I think he knows more about diamonds than any man I've ever done. And that's how he landed on Genesis. He just knew it.
Jay picked out a stunning, flawless, pear-shaped diamond and said, got the value price Genesis is known for. Totally reminding me of all the amazing Genesis experience.
When you walk into Genesis, you can just feel the happiness. You know that they're helping find something that symbolizes the love that you have for your partner, and you can feel that as soon as you walk through the door.
Genesis Diamonds at Poplar and Perkins Extended.
Everyone needs protection, whether you're on the field or on the road, so make sure you have the best. Bob Simpson State Farm Insurance can buckle you up with auto insurance, can back you up with life and health insurance, cover your business whether it's starting, growing, or maturing, and don't forget to insure your home, no matter if you're an owner or a renter. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Call Bob Simpson today at 901-381-1233 or go online and get a free quote at bobsimpson.org. Stay protected with your good neighbor, Bob Simpson.
Fall is football at the Owner's Box Sports Bar and Grill in Lakeland, Town Square. Monday through Friday, it's happy hour from 3 to 6. $1 off all draft meals, $5 off meal drinks, $4.50 for house wine, and pretzels, mozzarella sticks, queso, corn dogs, and more. Friday night lights from 7 to 11. Dine in and buy 12 Wednesday night. Games for free. I'll watch college football and every pro game. All at the Owner's Box Sports Bar and Grill in Lakeland. Highway 70. Fall is football.
Is your wife asking you to stop eating junk food? We have it covered at Humdinger. It's quick and it's healthy, and most important, it tastes amazing. Many choices from salmon salad to rainbow trout and grilled asparagus. Come visit us for lunch at Humdinger, 6300 Poplar Avenue. So good, Coach Penny eats with us weekly. Don't forget, Humdinger's offers full-service catering for weddings, social events, or your corporate lunches. You can call 901-260-8292 to find out more.
So you need to sell your house? I have the solution. Call 901-406-1101. That's 901-406-1101. Call my buddy Bill and I buy houses, any house, any area, as is. It's literally as simple as that. Just pick up your phone, call 901-406-1101. It's 901-406-1101. Call my buddy Bill and I buy houses, guaranteed to close in 5 days. If you need to sell your house fast, call Bill at 901-406-1101. Bill and I buy houses.
It's a holiday experience like no other. The Light Garden at Olive Branch City Park. It's a walk-through entertainment extravaganza with hundreds of giant 3D Christmas-like displays, photos with Santa, food and drinks, and special event including fireworks on New Year's Eve. New this year is a winter-inspired 18-hole miniature golf course. Bring the family out nightly through January 1st. Go to lightgarden.online for details and to buy tickets. Now stay tuned to Sports 56 and 98.5 FM for chances to win tickets to go through the Light Garden.
We will be hooking up with the roundtable. Corey Glore, Bruce Howard, in a matter of moments. It's brought to you by Sheldon. Don't let anybody tell you the real estate market is slower during the holidays. Not with my guy. Sheldon Rosengarten, Mark Spensdorf just worked 2 transactions over Thanksgiving while he was literally, and I watched him do this, 4 times zones away in Maui. It's crazy. But that's why people often say when you want the job done, you call Sheldon. He sold homes on Christmas Eve, maybe this past couple of days ago. He has sold on New Year's Day, Memorial Day, Labor Day, and again, he did it on Thanksgiving. So if you know somebody who's thinking of selling, well, maybe it's you. You can talk to 2 or 3 real estate brokers. He says talk to those guys, but make sure that you also talk with him. And it's easy, 483-0546, or you can use the website memphisrelocate.com. His highly successful strategic marketing program works every time, even on holidays. I've seen them do it. It is something that is really beautiful thing to watch. And combine that with his being affiliated with the major corporate relocation network, he makes the difference of whether you sit or you sell. That's Shell done. Again, MemphisRelocate.com or call 483-0546. Bowl season has been pretty good to the AAC. Let me bring in the voice of Tulane, that is Corey Glore, and the voice of the Tulsa Golden Hurricane, that is Bruce Howard. The AAC 3-1 in bowls, plenty more coming. Corey, your poor team without your quarterback did take the one loss in the conference. I guess I want to start the conversation this way. I believe that the Americans Football Conference is more competitive than it is as a basketball conference. Do you guys, and I'll start with Corey, do you believe the commitment is the same in basketball as it is in football? Good morning, guys, and Merry Christmas.
Good morning, Dave, Bruce. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Great to be back with you guys here. I think the simple answer to that is a very firm no. Even taking out the financial elements of how much can be gained from having a good football league and what the platform can be done there as opposed to as many teams in an NCAA tournament that you can get basketball. Even taking the percentages, the ratio out of that, I think you can just look around the league currently in basketball as we're on the precipice of conference play and see just where, how underwhelming most of the teams have been in their non-conference slates and how different the rosters are from those a year ago and how much is not being, I guess, directed towards basketball for various NIL collectives, for all of that stuff that you see around the league. There is a real step back, I think, in investment in what the American Basketball League is right now, certainly after the losses of Houston and Cincinnati and years ago UConn. It's not nearly the same as it was in this league 5-6 years ago.
Oh, it's a one-bid league, and I hate to say this, but I think Tulane is a great example of that. I look at Tulane's facilities, and I see football, heck of an investment. Baseball, too, heck of an investment. I don't see that, and I know the name of your basketball arena is named after a great philanthropist in Memphis named Avron Fogelman. But the truth is, I don't think you can make Fogelman an arena that would attract a lot of great players, personally.
Yeah, and I don't think you're wrong there, Dave. And I think the biggest issue that Tulane has is if there is a major desire to do things differently for their basketball facilities, that arena is a landmark, and there's only so much that can be done there. So you really have to build from scratch. And just kind of based on what I'm hearing there and what you're seeing there hasn't been as much momentum to do something like that as opposed to trying to get the football situation more stabilized. And I know we'll be talking about that a little bit here as well on this round table. But, it doesn't seem as though that's not high on the list right now to get that facility up to where I think it could be, where it should be to bring basketball up to football's level.
Bruce, you've got a great arena. It's one of my favorites to do games with. Part of it is where you put us, and we're opposite the benches, and it's a great perspective. But I've seen it as a great atmosphere, too, when Tulsa basketball has done well. But is there the same commitment? And I know this has been a rough year in football, so this is, not just a one-year deal. You give me your thoughts about the investment for Tulsa and really the whole league when it pertains to football versus basketball.
Yeah, I think it depends on the school as well and what's your tradition and what is your history. And Tulsa's had a great history in basketball, and I think honestly, Tulsa got behind the eight ball a little bit on the NIL and the portal and that kind of thing. Did not probably react as quickly as others. I think you're right. Football in general in the American is a lot deeper. You've got a lot of good teams, got a lot of teams that are very competitive, and then basketball, it looks like it's pretty top heavy. But I think part of that has to do with, when this all came down, I think you had a lot of administrators thinking to themselves, gosh, we're going to have to fix football first because you got to get, 85 players, and how are we going to do this? Put a lot of resources into figuring that all out. If you want to be valid in football, boy, you've got to, it's a numbers game. You've got to provide a lot of resources. And then I'm not saying that basketball takes second fiddle, but as the old saying goes, like in some of the some of the great academic institutions would say it's a lot easier to get 10 really smart basketball players than to get 55 really smart football players. So I think it's a numbers game, and I think it's something where I really do believe basketball will catch up. But at the same time, you look at FAU was in the Final Four a few years ago, and several of those players are playing, for Michigan and for other players, for other teams based on where coaches have gone. And I think there's also the coaching situation where coaches, heck, in the American and football, coaches got fired, and I think in basketball there's been some turnover as well. I just think basketball is lagging behind. I don't think it's I do think it's something that they will catch up eventually, and I think it'll depend on the institution. What do they think is important?
Well, the football firings were eye-opening to me. It shows me to a certain extent, but there's no doubt there's a commitment when it comes to football. I think an example is UTSA. Now, they beat Coastal Carolina 44-15. They're a much different team when they play at home. They don't lose with this coach at home. It's impressive. Their basketball facilities are terrible. They do not have the same kind of sense. I think North Texas is the same way. They're going to be playing in a bowl. South Florida, the Sun Dome is a nice place, but they were lucky they got the coach they got, and unfortunately he passed away. That has, since Seth Greenberg, that place has struggled. So I don't see in the league, other than Memphis, that really cares about basketball. I don't see that same kind of commitment, Corey.
Yeah, I think that a couple maybe exceptions to that would be you have Wichita State as basketball is their primary thing, and they have struggled since the Greg Marshall situation. They have had a good non-conference year. We'll see what happens now. And I think the other one is that for years, and I would say even still today, Temple believes that basketball is their priority, but how they've tried to balance that with maintaining an FBS football program. We saw what UConn did, and I think a lot of folks were wondering if Temple would go similarly to keep that high-level basketball program where it's been over the decades with Lon Chaney and whatnot, and that has been a balance for them to try and figure out. I think, what Memphis has been able to do is find a way to support both of these programs at a high level that they have there, whereas Wichita State is struggling to keep their NIL with where it needs to be where they were 10, 12 years ago in college basketball, and Temple certainly has had a major battle trying to figure out that as well. But those are schools in this league that support and love their basketball programs dearly. They have just had trouble adapting with the current climate of college sports to keep it going.
Well, you mentioned UConn. I was stunned when they made the move, and a lot of that had to do with time zones and just the sense they could not sustain their basketball program in the American, and the Big East wanted them. And that was their history. That's where their rivals were. But they sacrificed football for that. And it's amazing they made a bowl game this year. I give them all the credit in the world. But, Bruce, when they first made that decision, I thought it was football suicide. I thought they were absolutely going to end football.
Yeah, I would agree. I thought that program might go away in 2 or 3 years, and yet they've done pretty well with the independent schedule. Playing other indie teams and then picking up pretty good non-league, if you will, for other schools. So I think they've really done about as well as they can with that. And you bring up Seth Greenberg. Many years ago, Seth Greenberg said, do you think UConn fans want to watch a game in Tulsa or East Carolina? And boy, that just made us furious here. When he was downgrading the American at that time, he says they need to be in the Big East. And lo and behold, 2 years later, they end up making that decision. Which honestly, when you think about the real rivals that they used to have, yes, St. John's, Georgetown, some of those, but it used to be Syracuse and Pitt and Boston College. The Big East isn't what it used to be. However, it ended up being exactly the right move for UConn basketball because look at what they've done. But at the time, I remember when Seth Greenberg made that comment, it was like it made people in Tulsa furious because they were linking Tulsa with some of the teams that hadn't had a great history in the American. And I think he might even thrown Tulane in there, Corey. But it was like it was a diss to the American, and yet in retrospect, it was probably the right thing for them to do.
To this day, I'm surprised that football has been able to maintain any kind of interest. They had no interest really once they left the Big East, and I thought it was suicidal, but apparently it is working out. Let me ask you one last thing, guys, and that's about the portal and the timing of the portal. We even have a backup quarterback in the playoffs at Penn State who opted out. What are your coaches saying about portal schedule? Can you change the schedule? Can they go to one portal opening, maybe after spring? What is the sense you get? I'll start with Corey, then Bruce.
I think there's a little bit of a trying to quell frustration here at Tulane with it, especially with the news of today and Mekhi Hughes going in. And so, Tulane's lost a lot now in this portal cycle, even though John Summerall is back for 2025. So I think the problem, though, is if you move the opening to, say, first week of January, you have to sneak it in before a spring semester starts. Does that change much about these couple of weeks in December about what players opt to do and opt not to do? I think, frankly, the hay's out of the barn at this point with this. I mean, I don't know how you fix this, but it's, well, some people would say it's fine. It works fine. I think most others would say that things are kind of broken right now with how this is set up. I don't think there is an easy remedy, even moving the portal day to January after, say, semifinals of the playoff, because I don't think that's going to influence a ton of how kids decide what to do moving forward for their future.
What about one portal opening after spring practice? Just one.
I think that's worth the debate. I think you run into the academic side of it in the semester thing. I think that's what schools will dig their heels on with that. And so, yeah, I don't know if there is a needle to be threaded here that would solve all the problems with this.
Bruce, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's a really hard thing, and Corey is right. The genie is out of the bottle at this point. It's kind of tough to stuff it back in. But I do believe I would say the proper approach would be to try to get all of the people involved. That's the NCAA, the coaches, and those that represent the players. Try to get together and come up with a common sense thing, because right now it doesn't seem to make any sense at all. Try to come up with something that's common sense and is amenable to everybody. Because OU today has 2 quarterbacks out, 3 running backs, 6 wide receivers, 5 linemen, 2 linebackers, 3 cornerbacks, and Danny Stutzman, who's their stud middle linebacker, taking on a team Navy that they're familiar with the porthole, but not with the portal, if you will.
Very good, Bruce Howard. I love that. Well, in the game here tonight at 6:00, the AutoZone Liberty Bowl, Arkansas is down, Brian, what is it, about 20 guys, right?
More than that, but probably more closer to like 25.
25 guys. It's unbelievable how many key guys that are not here. If you want to save the bowl system, you got to do something. I don't know. You can't just directly tie it to NIL because that's pay for play. But you got to be somehow creative to make sure that if you're going to get your money, which I believe is what West Virginia did for the game in Frisco with Memphis, that you got to play in the game to collect your NIL. Your last payment comes after that. Something of that nature has to be done.
And how close, guys, did Army come to not even having a game with Louisiana Tech coming in at 5-7? I think they were the next to the last APR of all the 5 and 7 teams. And the only reason they end up going to this bowl game is because they're on the quarter system. And they actually happen to be in school. Yeah. Everybody else turned it down.
Right.
And,
well, look at Marshall just quit. They just said too many guys in the portal because their coach left. I mean that's unheard of. That is a slap in the face to everybody, including the
I'm just glad Army gets to play. They deserve to play another game.
I'm with you. They definitely deserved it this year. Corey Glore, Bruce Howard, Happy New Year's to you guys. We'll speak next year. How's that?
Hey, sounds like a plan. Thank you so much.
Sounds good to me, fellas.
All right. Thank you, guys. We appreciate it. Happy New Year to both. Corey Glore, Bruce Howard. That'll end our roundtable. It's been brought to you by Grind City Brewing. This is something different to try for the New Year's. Maybe something a little sweeter, a little tartar, a little bit different. This is the Gator Patrol. It's their tangerine cream sour. Not so new now. I've been talking about it for a while, but I think it's really worth trying. It's sweet tart. It's refreshing. and something a little bit different for the holidays. You want it that way. And the great thing is you got the sour, but it's perfectly balanced out by this hint, subtle hint, of cream. Oh, yeah, it's brewed to be a special holiday thing. Well, it's actually for a lot of different occasions. But it's perfect for the holidays, just like Grind City is perfect for a concert venue with their really beautiful picnic grounds and the modern brewery right there. And, of course, you can buy all their products right there. You might see a concert there. It's truly a part of Memphis now. It's Grind City Brewing Company and their brand new Tangerine Cream Sour. It's called Gator Patrol. Go check it out. That'll do it for us. Johnny Radio, I think, is right around the corner. He comes your way in a couple of minutes. Again, I'll see you tomorrow at FedEx Forum. The Tigers and Ole Miss, a critical game to kind of button up your resume for a good seeding in the NCAA, and this is against the 16th ranked team in the country. Should be a lot of fun. We'll see you then, and then we'll see you back here on Monday.